Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back to the spare bedroom, aka the shop. And today we are here to talk about uh, this guy. This is my um, what is this thing called? This is the Benchmade H&K AXIS folder. Now, normally, anything in the H&K series is not really strictly worth owning, seeing as things like autos and OTFs aren't allowed here in Kazakhstan. But with a couple of exceptions, most notably being this one. Now, this is fairly interesting. This is a nice D2 blade with the DLC coating, and the whole thing is actually made in the USA, which is, as I understand, is a rarity for the series. Um, and it comes with the Axis lock, which you all know and may or may not like because of, like, does it really need to be five pieces to do the same function, whereas like a bearing lock will do the same thing for with two three pieces, right? um, Now, that being said, I do actually quite enjoy using it. It's very decent, and it's just all around good for that sort of one-handed operation. um, Now, of note, when I was in the store and we were looking at this thing, um, the guys in the shop and I were talking about it and whatever, and we're looked at the shape, and it's very reminiscent of the Benchmade Striker, and also at the same time the Triage, to the point where we were wondering if it's actually made on the same line, because it's like the scales are clearly not as refined when they're cut, but the shape is so, like, dramatically similar. We're very almost wondering what the deal is here. Anyway, so we have this, like, fairly wonderful, like, traditional blade shape here. Nice long flat surface and a nice gentle taper. Um, yeah, really, to me, this is just an interesting daily knife. Now, when you think of day to day things, right, and you whip out the classic big scary knife shaped blade, people go, "Oh my gosh, you're carrying a knife. I'm so scared," because you're carrying like a standard shaped, like, Bowie knife almost, right? But it's folding, and you know, so I've had mixed reactions to it, and really, um, I don't know. I like it. It doesn't have this forward choil deal that, like, say, like the Spydercos that I'm quite fond of do have. So you're like there, but there's a fairly decent gap here, so I can get my finger in there, and you're like, oh, okay, sure, I could totally do that. But then when you actually get your finger in there, there's no way in hell you're gonna actually be using it like this, right? So it does kind of trick you a little bit, and you do have to be mindful of not actually putting your finger there. So you will be holding it mainly like this, in sort of that standard grip, not quite the hammer, Um, so that leads me to, like, my first couple of notes, in that this recessed jimping here is fine, along the liners. It's not meant to be the primary gripping surface anyway, but it's sort of like an indexing point. And a lot of Spydercos, in particular, that I can think of, like the Manix, and I think the Para 2 does this really well. And, like, this is actually, if you look very closely, it's actually slightly raised here, and that actually feels really good, because it's very subtle, and you don't notice it until you actually get your thumb up on it, and it feels like, even if you do get your thumb up on it, you don't necessarily notice that it's raised at all. But, like, if you do know, you can really appreciate that subtlety. It's really just awesome. And you get up onto the blade, and this is like one of the complaints I have here is that this is super shallow and I don't know, not sharp in the slightest, but um, it like really with this kind of blade shape, you're not really asking for it to grip necessarily unless you're stabbing, and let's be honest, that shouldn't be the case, right? Um, Actually, of note, what's really interesting, I don't know if you can see this here. Um, the top line here is like the coating is on it, but there's still like water jet. I think it's water jet markings on it. I really don't know if you can see this or not, but it's not smooth. It's not ground. Like they didn't go and bother to regrind the top, which really gives you an idea of where they value. Because if this was a regular Benchmade series, like branded series, this would not fly. This would fail QC. But almost every one of these we've seen in the shop, in the knife store, which I'm a regular at, unfortunately, has these water jet markings, and I think it's kind of neat. We don't often see knives like this, and it reminds us that these are actually tools, and somebody made these, or I guess somebody programmed a computer to make these. But back to the finger wrapping on the Tanto version, which is fairly ridiculous looking, if I'm honest, to my eyes, because it's the shape just doesn't agree with me. And this is coming from somebody who actually quite likes the shape of Tanto knives, right? The thumb part here will actually ramp up a bit, and it does lock in your thumb quite a bit, and I do like that. But the rest of it just doesn't agree with me, and I don't know. That's I guess a discussion for that knife, right? This one comes with the really quite nice indexing jimping here and here, and it does the shape of the handles. Excuse me. Kind of does give you a little bit of like a reminiscence of a coffin grip, without being as obnoxious and ugly as a coffin grip. I'm sorry, people, but I just don't like them. Um, but this is just nice. It has a lot of classic features, like again the shape here and the blade shape here, mixed in with some modern things we can all appreciate, like the one-handed operation here, and this swoop here is just plain beautiful. It's not the most complex manufacturing of G10 maybe, but in practice and in use, it feels real nice. It's just so subtle and you don't even notice it, but it just accentuates that just perfect. Um, Fairly standard pocket clip, but it is entirely fine. There's a little bit of weight relief on the scale that don't think I can show you that. A little bit of there we go. A little bit of circle weight relief inside, and yeah, I don't know. The main I guess attraction of this knife is that you're getting D2 at something like $150 Canadian, which is kind of really cheap. And like you're getting an Axis lock and D2 together. And I believe, as far as I know, the secret is out on these because the store can't keep them freaking in stock anymore, or couldn't for a while, right? And that's pretty telling. So I really think that they have that they've got a winner here. Again, it maybe could use a little like ergonomic refinement. I think that the forward choil is just good, plain good, and I don't know if that would work really on this knife, but this, I guess that's not really up to me. I guess my main complaint is that this is pretty this lockup spot here is pretty sharp, and you can actually pinch yourself quite badly if you're not very careful. Even though it is nicely rounded everywhere it meets up, this actually is pretty beautiful right there. it from an engineering standpoint, where it comes up and just meets that. And this is really the only place we could get caught, and it meets up and just flushes out. It's just like somebody, whoever made this, I'm a fan. You know what I mean? This is something really that I think they couldn't quite justify sneaking into the full Benchmade lineup. But this is honestly, like, this is, as far as non autos, non out the fronts go, this is probably the only H&K knife you'd be looking at realistically. So yeah, this is meant to be a brief look at this, and mainly to be test footage of this new camera, because the Potato I was filming on left the country. So we're just going to see what this looks like, and if this passes muster, you'll be seeing this, and if it doesn't, you won't be, so who knows. Maybe I'll cut out this part at the end, but yeah, we'll just pretend that the bedroom workshop that continues to get the ever decreasing amount of desk space is really this. What is this? Oh my gosh, the healing bench. Okay, so I've blabbled on enough. Keep your stick on the. That's not whatever.